So last Thursday, I received an email from the Adelaide Festival Board with an attached statement informing all participants that Dr. Randa Abdul Fattah had been removed, uninvited from the festival. Now, I quickly went online, did some searches, expecting to find some clear information as to why had she been uninvited, what were recent comments made. There was no actual quotes in the statement. And there was this really odd conflation that I read between Dr. Abdul Fattah, her voice as a Palestinian author, and the Bondi terror attack while denying there was connection there. And the whole statement felt very funny to me. I decided that the only option for me was to pull out of the festival, given that I didn't understand the context and that I believed this to be a racist act of censorship.
And you weren't alone in pulling out. What did you make of the mass boycott?
I actually thought it was an amazing moment. I think that over the last 2 years, there's been a real divide in our responses to, what I would describe as Israel's genocide against Palestinians. I think to see the silencing, the suppression of a Palestinian author by a festival board was concerning, and to see the Australian, writing and arts community quite broadly show support for Dr. Abdul Fattah was a beautiful thing, because it was an act of solidarity and an act of protest in one.
The South Australian Premier backed the board's decision and took it even further, comparing Randa's appearance to booking a far-right Zionist in the aftermath of a Zionist killing Muslims.
Could you imagine that as Premier of this state, I would actively support a far-right Zionist going to Writers' Week and speaking hateful rhetoric towards Islamic people?
Randa has now launched defamation proceedings because of this extraordinary attack on her character. What does it say to you, Hannah, that we have a political leader ultimately in charge of the event's budget making a comment like that?
It is hard for me not to see it as the continued, lobbying pressure placed on Australian institutions. And it is really hard for me to see this as anything other than an act of censorship and racism. I'm seeing a lot of the Murdoch media cover this by only quoting the South Australian Premier's references without actually acknowledging that the real concern and imputation here is that Dr. Randa Abdul Fattah might have held the same views as those who committed the Bondi terror attack, which just isn't the case, and actually is so blatantly offensive and disturbing for a Premier to be making. And so I think we actually need to sit with the fact that we have, the highest official in South Australia making these comments at a press conference, quite willy-nilly, and that is deeply irresponsible and that she deserves an apology.